going to Italiano. You're gonna have to tell us about a 3DO.
Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 6th of July, 2017. We're kind of covering a huge little segment here on migrants and Italy and Poland and Trump's visit to Poland. So you'll have to just watch all of our videos for today.
Okay, so right now the news is that Austria wants to put military on the border between Austria and Italy's pretty upset about it because it's kind of like when the balloon keeps getting filled with air and they're getting ready to explode, and Austria's like, well, you're just going to explode.
Italy over Vienna's reported plans to deploy troops at the borders between the two countries. It's all happening amidst an increased influx of migrants into Italy. RT's Charlotte Dubensky has the details.
Austria's ambassador has been summoned over the fact that Vienna has said it could deploy up to 750 troops to the border with Italy. They're ready to be deployed at any point, and it has already deployed a number of armed personnel carriers to the border, to the Brenner Pass, which is a mountainous pass between Italy and Austria. And that's because Austria is concerned about the growing influx of migrants to Italy, which may then cross its border into Austria. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to say that they will shore up their own borders if there is a continued influx of people moving northwards from Italy. Now that's because in the last few years 500,000 migrants have landed on Italian shores, many of them not wanting to stay in Italy. And if we look at the figures this year alone, the UN Migration Agency says around 100,000 migrants have landed on European soil from the Mediterranean Sea since January of this year, and the majority of those, more than 84,000, have landed in Italy alone. Now, I was in the Italian island of Sicily over the last few days, in the city of Palermo, looking at some of the issues that have been caused by this mountain migrant crisis. And what we saw on the streets there, the fact that many of the mafia gangs have now teamed up with migrant gangs, and they're actually forcing migrants to work for them in criminal activities such as selling drugs. And we've seen over the past few weeks migrants being stopped, particularly on the French-Italian border, and being forced to go back into Italy. Now, Italy has just said it feels abandoned. It just cannot cope with this mounting crisis. What started as a call for help by Italy now looks like it could be turning into a diplomatic crisis as countries in the EU look to close their borders off with their EU counterpart, leaving Italy dwindling under the continued pressure of this
Merkel says, come on in, come on in, and they go to Italy and they're like, oh wait, just stay right there. Do you think that there's a thing against Italy?
Could be.
Just to destabilize Italy, maybe?
Absolutely.
To get to, you know, if I was Italian, there's talk of Italian Brexit, and what do you call it? It-elexit? I don't know. So, so this minister in France says the EU is useless.
Germany has agreed to draw up a code of conduct for charities operating rescue boats in the Mediterranean with the aim of bringing under control the growing influx of migrants. In the past few days alone, up to 12,000 people have arrived in Italy from Africa, while more than 85,000 have landed in the country since the start of this year. Now, Rome is seeking financial help from its European neighbours, fearing the growing number of migrants does raise the risk of terrorism. Reporting from Sicily with more, RT's.
There's another interesting tidbit in this, and if we have time, we'll bring it to you, is that they love the kids coming in for the pedophilia networks.
Charlotte
Italy says it's buckling under the strain as the migrant crisis deepens. Anti-terror and anti-mafia national prosecutor Franco Roberti says that's endangering security.
Those who arrive on the dinghies then undergo a process of radicalization that may lead to the realization of terror attacks.
Roberti recalled the case of Tunisian Anis Amri, who drove a truck into crowds on the Berlin Christmas market last year. Amri arrived in Italy on a migrant boat back in 2011. He was denied asylum in Germany in 2015, but was not deported. A year later, Amri carried out the terror attack, killing 12 people and injuring dozens more. Migrants have made their way across the Mediterranean Sea and landed on Italian ports like this. But Italian authorities say they just cannot cope, and they've asked for more help from their EU counterparts. While the majority of migrants are likely to be those fleeing war and poverty, the concern is that amongst them will be those who pose a threat to Europe. And that makes Italy's cry for help directed at European leaders not just about Italy alone, but about the security of the whole European Union.
Right, let's bring in now the former Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Franco Frattini, joining us here on RT International. Good to see you today, sir. I'll start with my first question about the NGOs. There are some non-governmental organisations accused of actually fueling the crisis by allegedly colluding with the smugglers. Is that accurate? And if so, how big of a problem is it?
We just covered that. If you guys didn't see
Well, it is a serious problem. There are some serious suspects that are put forward from the prosecutors that are now investigating on serious cases of suspect collusion with those that are trafficking in human beings. I hope there will be, as soon as possible, a verdict proving that these allegations are true or not. I suspect that if a prosecutor says publicly is investigating over some NGOs, there is something true behind. And this would be a very, very serious problem.
Now, the Italian Prime Minister has warned that a continued influx of migrants could provoke a backlash in Italian society. Just for a moment, stand by, sir. Have a listen to this.
Italy needs support to avoid the flows becoming unsustainable, feeding hostile reactions in our society.
The Italian Prime Minister saying that the current situation is unsustainable. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. It is an unsustainable situation. Prime Minister Gentiloni is trying to promote European solidarity, but unfortunately there is a disgregation of European Union around even the pillar of basic solidarity to Europe, to Italy.
But are you getting the help you need from Brussels at this point?
No.
Well, Europe unfortunately is proving completely useless on helping Italy on solving the migrant crisis. When I was European Commissioner responsible for security and immigration, we were able to mobilize many member states' forces. Today, unfortunately, the weakness of European institutions and national egoisms are leading to isolating Italy in the middle of the Mediterranean. This is simply not acceptable, as Prime Minister says, is unsustainable position from Italy vis-à-vis Europe.
You say that Italy is being isolated by Europe. You also describe Europe as being useless in this ongoing migrant crisis. What would be the agenda, the motivation to isolate Italy, just to make your country deal with the migrants on a single level?
Yes, it is very simple. If you look at the Paris meeting a few days ago, the Minister of Interior of Germany, France and Italy, plus the responsible European Commissioner, met in Paris upon invitation of the Macron government. 2 days later, France announced the closing of the French ports. Spain announced the closing of the Spanish port. What is that? It's absolute lack of solidarity, because it's very easy to put on the shoulders of Italy the burden of immigration. The only extreme response from Italy should be closing Italian ports to NGOs' boats, except the official UN mission. This would be extreme but necessary response to the lack of solidarity.
Mr. Frattini, I've got very, very little time left here, but in a quick answer, could I ask you, are there concerns in your country of the migrants coming from Africa that some could be radicalized, there could be an increased threat of terrorism?
Yes, there is a concern, there are investigations, there are many expulsions of those that are caught among those that are refugees or migrants that unfortunately are discovered to be radicals and linked to terrorism. The phenomenon is a serious one.
So he talked about closing the ports of Italy, and he said that would be very extreme. For those of you that aren't following and you can't quite grasp the act, bringing it down to real people, imagine these people have been on boats and they are traveling to Italy and the ports are closed. And that boat has to be turned around and go back. That's almost a death sentence for a lot of those people. So this is a very serious decision that needs to happen. But you have to look at the whole picture, okay? Because if you keep letting them in, it's going to cost other lives down the road. And it's not that you don't feel for these African people who have been led like sheep, okay? Not that you don't feel for them, but you have to look at it as a whole. Like, guys, it's kind of like, you know, Bush used to say, we don't negotiate with terrorists, right? And you think, well, what if they actually do what they've threatened that they're going to do? If you were sold as slaves. If you continue to allow these boats, then they're just going to continue to send them. So it's not.
These are some pretty intense boats, and obviously the people who are putting them on the boats on the African shores do not care about them, because some of these boats are called double deckers. They got 700 people.
They run out of food. They run out of water.
There's a double decker with 700 people on that one ship. Can you count? I don't even see how 700 people could get on there. But I watched this earlier. I was just going to let this play in the background while we were kind of talking about it. Yes, we feel for the people.
And then there's these volunteers that are there that I have to tell you, I have every ounce of respect for these volunteers that are wanting to help these people.
It's my understanding it's modern day slavery trafficking.
That's exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is.
And they're bringing these slaves to these books, some boats, some died, just like they did before.
Even in Italy, they have said, well, some of the people wanted the migrants in because they said we have a low birth rate, we need workers. When you do that, that is called slavery.
Well, Islam and Muslims, they've always said slave. They've always shipped
so they
slaves.
don't
They've
care.
always trafficking slaves. And these black people died.
That was my point.
Don't care. The Islam state doesn't care.
Arabs have always trafficked in. Where do you think the American slave trade originated? Arabs have always trafficked in black slaves, and they're like the dudes. That's what they do, man. And so, yeah, maybe that could be a racist thing, but people say that about America, right, all the time. Our phone just rang.
Can I correct that? I said this is modern day slavery by Muslims, Islam, but actually it's the EU.
Yes.
These are slaves for the EU. EU is trafficking in slavery.
And pedophilia.
And what's her name? Merkel?
Yeah.
This is slavery. She is trafficking in slavery.
Yes. They don't see the black people. They're like, come children, come. Did you hear? It was really creepy. She feels like a mother to these migrants. She's just weird.
Yeah, well, guess what? She's not there right there on the Italian border actually dealing with these people.
Does she have
now,
any in her home, by the way?
She should. Here's the thing, Angela Merkel. I want you to drive to Italy and pick up at least 25 of these migrants and take them into your house and feed them and clothe them and make them a part of your family. That's what you need to do.
Well, she might want the children.
Yeah. All right, you guys. It is heartbreaking. It is heart-wrenching. And there are things that need to happen. But unfortunately, the powers that be that could make those things happen actually are, this is their end goal. This is what they want to happen. So change is only going to take place grassroots. When the people say enough is enough, when you see these faces and these people and your heart breaks for them.
It's just a different kind of slavery. We've just modernized it. It's kind of like, at first they like owned the people because there wasn't a lot of apartments and stuff and a lot of infrastructure, so you had to have the people there on your land to do your work. They need people to do a different kind of work, so they have a whole different kind of system set up to get these people doing a different kind of work, right? It's all about getting other people to do work for you.
Right.
That's what slavery is.
Right, but I don't want to leave people hopeless. If you did not watch our 2-hour and 45-minute 4th of July special and segment, we did cover a portion on George Washington Carver. If you're not native to America or you're not an American, you may not know who he is, but he was a black man who was literally one of the most incredible inventors that America ever produced.
Yeah.
And we covered how he went into his laboratory and he asked God to show him the purpose for the peanut, amongst many other things. And God did. And he always went, and he came up with like 300 uses or something like that for the peanut. And you have to go back and watch it because it's really, really powerful. What do we do about the migrant crisis? How can countries all over the world go into Africa and instead of being like America has done in the past and just make things worse, how can we as a people, not the government, the people, make things better so that those people can stay? We talked about microloans and different things like that, where in Africa, if somebody can get a cow or a goat, they can start a business. Just that one thing is enough. It's not enough to bring in moon pies or food or rice or something like that. But when you can do a little thing that's going to create
micro economies,
a business for that person.
Bill Gates doesn't think about Bill Gates and all these big giant corporations.
All they can think is on a broad company scale.
Right. Now there are people doing microloans for small businesses, and that's what you need. You need small economies. You need small businesses. And that's how, and I've talked to a lot of people who have been in Africa, and they say that aid is the worst thing you can do for an African community.
Because it creates dependency.
Food, when you bring in clothes, when you bring in all these things, you can destroy. What good is it to bring in food and clothes when you destroy a person's business and livelihood?
So if you bring
like
in,
Walmart, right?
100 gallons of milk, what does that do to the person that has a little micro business
selling milk with
their cow? They would rather create a competition, right, where they're actually selling their own milk or bartering or trading or whatever. I keep going back to the goat thing because it's the easiest to look to. But if we pray and ask God,
the answer is God.
Yes, what can we do? Unfortunately, in a lot of these countries over there in Africa, they're a godless people. And when I say godless, I don't just mean they just don't have any religion. No, they have a lot of them have a religion, but it's not the one true God. And whenever you have a godless society, this is the kind of destruction that you see. And so we have to be praying for these people, but not just praying for them, but putting our money, or I hate that word, but listen, acting out what we're preaching. We have to do that. So you need to be getting on your face before God. God, give us an answer as a collective human race to stop this horrific slave trade, modern day slave trade that is taking place right now.
At the same time, we can't try to get Africa to be like Americans, because we have,
and that seems to be the goal.
We have clothes, we have food, we have cars. So Italy is openly discussing the Euro exit, calling the Italy.
Italy, I like it. It's the Italy.
In Europe, where it is essentially taboo to publicly discuss anything deemed politically incorrect, some interesting conversations are taking place in the Italian parliament regarding the future of Italy in the Eurozone. Via email, Eurointelligence asks, is Italy heading for debt reconstruction or Euro exit? We are reporting from an important conference in Rome yesterday that has caught the Italian news headlines this morning on the future of Italian public debt. It was organized by the 5 Star Movement, held in the Italian Chambers of Deputies, and openly discussed issues such as default mechanism inside the Eurozone, sovereign debt restructuring mechanisms, parallel payment systems, and of course the Euro exit. What is important about this debate is that it is now taking place in public. You can't be more public than inside the parliament. Italians, not only the 5 Star Movement, are openly talking about these issues. One of us was on the podium where we reiterated our criticism of the 5 Star Movement's previously held cavalier notion of a Euro referendum. The essential point we were trying to make in the debate, well reflected in this morning's coverage by the main newspapers, is that Euro exit is not a decision to be taken lightly. The announcement of a referendum would produce a financial crisis and might turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy. Euro exit belongs to the category of things that, citing Shakespeare's Macbeth, if it were done when 'tis done, then twere well if we're done quickly.
Yes.
So there you have it. It's possible that they could be talking about a Euro exit.
Listen, when you've joined a collective body and then that same collective body abandons you, you might not want to be part of that collective body anymore. Just saying. You might be better off by yourself.
Right.
Okay, this is Leah Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it is not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring that bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We love you. God loves you. God bless.
I was cold, all alone. No place for